Do you remember the last time you wished you could just dig a hole and disappear into the ground? Maybe it was when you stood up to give a presentation in front of the whole company and suddenly stumbled over a silly word. Or when you accidentally blurted out an awkward joke right in front of someone you like. The whole room went silent. You hadn't even had time to react. Your brain hadn't come up with a quick save yet, but your body had already acted. A wave of heat started crawling from your neck up to your chin, then it spread across both cheeks. Within just a few seconds, your face turned bright red. At that moment, your mind had only one alarm system screaming, "Please, don't blush right now. Please, I'm going to look terrible." But what if I told you that everything you've ever believed about blushing is completely wrong? In today's video, we're going to break it down through the lens of science to understand what really happens in your brain when you blush, why this tiny reaction actually plays a much bigger role than we think, and how you can take control of it in the moments that matter most. Before we dive into your brain, let's step back millions of years and look at the grand picture of evolution. The natural world is full of amazing biological signals. A male peacock spreads his bright, colorful feathers to attract a mate. An octopus can change the color of its skin in an instant to hide from predators. Body signals like these help living creatures attract partners, avoid danger, or gain an advantage in the competition for survival. In other words, most biological displays in nature serve two ultimate purposes: survival and reproduction. But there is one phenomenon in humans that even the father of evolution himself, Charles Darwin, found puzzling. In his book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, published in 1872 after many years of observing humans and primates, Darwin wrote a famous line: "Blushing is the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions." In other words, blushing is not just a physiological reaction. It seems to be a very unique human trait. To this day, humans are almost the only species known to have a blushing response linked to social embarrassment. And that creates an evolutionary paradox. The top rule of nature is this: hide your weaknesses. If you are a weak animal that is injured, you must try to look strong. If you are afraid, you must hide your panic so predators do not rush in and tear you apart. So why? Why did our human ancestors evolve such a ridiculous biological mechanism, pumping blood into the face, lighting it up like a red lantern, just to shout to the whole world, "Hey everyone, I'm really embarrassed right now. I'm in a weak position"? How did such a strange gene avoid being removed by natural selection and instead make its way all the way into your DNA today? Some evolutionary psychologists believe the answer lies in the social nature of humans. Unlike many other animals, humans survive mainly through group cooperation, hunting together, sharing food, raising children, and protecting the community. If you were kicked out of the tribe, you would almost certainly die, either from starvation or from predators. For a community to survive, there had to be rules, but no human is perfect. Everyone breaks the rules at some point. Maybe you accidentally ate someone else's share of meat. Maybe you spoke carelessly and insulted the tribal leader. When you did something wrong, the tribe could become angry, violence could break out, and at that moment of extreme tension, the blushing mechanism appears. When blood rushes to your cheeks, you are essentially raising a white flag of peace. It is the most sincere nonverbal apology. "I know I was wrong. I respect the shared rules. Please forgive me." And the amazing thing is, it works. That silent confession could calm the tribe's anger and save our ancestors from deadly exile. You don't blush because you are weak. You blush because your brain is actively protecting you from being rejected by the group. To understand why blushing is so trustworthy, we need to examine it a bit from a physiological perspective. What exactly happens underneath your skin when someone compliments you, or when you accidentally fart in the middle of a crowd? The blushing mechanism is directly connected to the sympathetic nervous system. This is the body's alarm system, usually activated when we feel that we are facing a threat. But sometimes that threat is not real danger. Sometimes it happens simply when you feel that attention is on you. When you stand in front of a crowd, when someone suddenly calls your name in a room full of people, or when you have just done something a little embarrassing. In those moments, the brain may interpret the situation as a social threat. Immediately, the amygdala in the brain activates the alarm signal and sends messages to the autonomic nervous system. This reaction pushes the body into a state of alertness. The heart rate increases, the circulatory system shifts, and several physiological processes begin to activate. And in the face, something very special happens. The small arteries and capillaries just beneath the skin of the face respond differently from many other areas of the body. Instead of tightening, they expand strongly in a process called vasodilation. When this happens, warm, oxygen-rich blood suddenly rushes into millions of tiny capillaries located right beneath the thin skin of the face. What is the result? Your cheeks turn red, your ears feel hot, and you may feel as if your whole face is giving off heat. This is the phenomenon we call blushing. And here's the most interesting part. You cannot fake a blush, and you cannot force it to stop by willpower. It is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, just like you cannot command your stomach to stop digesting or tell your heart to stop beating. Any great Hollywood actor can force themselves to cry, but no one, no matter how talented, can force themselves to blush. Because of this impossible-to-fake nature, blushing becomes one of the most valuable, trustworthy signals in human communication. Your body is overriding your conscious control to automatically tell the truth. Your blood vessels are speaking to the world on your behalf. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because this built-in lie detector is not just there for fun, it directly affects how the world sees you. Imagine you are playing a business cooperation game. Your partner has just made a fatal mistake that cost you a large amount of money. He comes to apologize. Case 1. He apologizes with a completely cold face, no emotion at all, strangely calm. Case 2. He apologizes, stumbling over his words, and his face turns red with embarrassment. Who would you trust more? Who would you be more willing to forgive and continue working with? Most likely the second person. This is not just personal feeling. It is supported by many psychological studies. A well-known study from the University of California, Berkeley, conducted experiments on embarrassment and trust. The results showed something very clear. People who display embarrassment, especially through blushing, are judged by others as more trustworthy, more generous, and more pro-social than people who show no visible reaction. When someone blushes after making a mistake, people around them immediately and unconsciously lower their guard. They automatically assume, okay, this person understands. This person has a conscience. They are already being punished by their own guilt inside, so I do not need to punish them further. Interestingly, this reaction does not only appear after mistakes, it also happens during positive emotional moments. For example, when you compliment someone, "You look great today." If that person simply smiles politely and accepts the compliment very smoothly, you may see them as quite confident. But if they pause for a moment, look down with a shy smile, and their cheeks turn a little red, that moment often feels much more genuine. In this case, blushing acts like a signal that the person was truly touched by your words, not just responding with a social script. In social communication, small emotional signals like this play a very important role. They help people recognize who is trustworthy and who is sincere. In other words, the reaction that makes you feel the most embarrassed may sometimes be the very thing that makes others see you as more genuine. Even though science is on your side, in real life, very few people feel comfortable when their face suddenly turns red in front of a crowd. Many of us fall into a vicious loop that medicine calls erythrophobia, the fear of blushing. The loop works like this. You are about to enter a social interaction. You tell yourself, "Oh no, please don't blush, please don't blush." That fear creates stress. The stress triggers the brain to release adrenaline, and the result is, boom, you actually blush. The more you try to control it, the more intensely it erupts. You become a victim of your own expectation. And to escape this fear, many people choose to build a mask. They train themselves to look cool. You know this type of person, right? The one who always keeps a cold face, never embarrassed, never showing emotion. Many young people today see that as the ideal way to behave in society. If you stay cold and calm, people will respect you. But let me show you the trap in that idea. That coldness, that poker face, may look powerful on the outside, but deep down, it is a concrete wall blocking connection. When you always appear emotionally blank, you send out an invisible threat signal. People around you automatically switch into defensive mode because they cannot read you. They never feel safe giving you their full trust. And if we look deeper through the lens of criminal psychology and clinical psychology, the complete absence of embarrassment or the inability to blush at all can actually be one of the most dangerous warning signs. A face that never turns red after doing something wrong, a nervous system that never raises the white flag of embarrassment after crossing a moral boundary. This is a classic sign of antisocial personality disorder, often associated with sociopathy or psychopathy. Million-dollar fraudsters and cold-blooded killers never blush because the guilt recognition system in their brain is broken. They do not care about harm done to the community. so be careful with people who can keep a perfectly cold head all the time. And you, the person who gets easily embarrassed, don't hate the little heater on your cheeks. Your awkwardness is often the very thing that breaks the defensive ice of the world. By revealing vulnerability through your blushing cheeks, you unintentionally invite others to take off their masks and speak honestly with you. Brené Brown once said, "We are drawn to the vulnerability and authenticity of others, but we try to hide our own." The fact that you cannot hide your blush, ironically, may make you the bravest person in the room. However, we still have to face a harsh reality. Sometimes blushing really is inconvenient. If you are giving a presentation in front of 500 people or sitting in the middle of a tense negotiation, suddenly turning bright red can throw you off balance and make you feel flustered. For many people, this can feel like a nightmare. So how can you take control of the fire on your face? Let me share 4 extremely simple psychological techniques you can start using right away. First, the paradoxical intention technique. This method comes from the well-known psychologist Viktor Frankl. It may sound strange, but sometimes the best way to reduce an anxious reaction is to stop fighting it. When you feel your face starting to heat up, the natural reaction is usually panic. Don't blush. Don't blush. But that fear only makes your nervous system more tense, which makes the blushing even stronger. Frankl suggested a completely different approach. Instead of trying to stop it, try doing the opposite. In your mind, tell yourself, all right, if my face wants to turn red, let it turn red. Let's see how red it can actually get. It sounds odd, but this breaks the anxiety loop. Once you stop treating blushing as a threat, the sympathetic nervous system gradually lowers its level of activation, and the blushing response often fades more quickly on its own. Second, the early acknowledgement technique. Blushing only becomes embarrassing when you treat it like a secret that must be hidden. Secrets create pressure, so take away the power of that secret by revealing it before anyone else notices. Are you giving a presentation and suddenly feel your face getting hot? Smile, pause for a second, and say to the audience, "Sorry everyone, I'm really excited about this presentation, so my face might be turning bright red right now." Boom. The elephant in the room has just been named. People will usually laugh warmly. The tension disappears. And once the secret is no longer a secret, your face will often cool down on its own. Third, use breathing to hit the brakes on your nervous system. As we discussed earlier, blushing is a response of the sympathetic nervous system, the system that activates the body's stress and alert state. The most effective way to calm this response is to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for relaxation. One of the simplest ways to do this is by adjusting your breathing. When you feel your face starting to heat up, try inhaling slowly through your nose for about 4 seconds. Hold your breath for a few seconds, then exhale slowly through your mouth. Slow, deep breathing sends a very clear signal to the brain. The body is safe, and there is no urgent threat. As the nervous system calms down, the blushing reaction usually softens as well. Fourth, shift your attention away from yourself. One reason we blush is because we focus too much on ourselves. When you feel embarrassed, you may start asking yourself, is my face red? Are people looking at me? The more your attention turns inward, the more the brain activates social threat mode, and the blushing becomes stronger. A simple way to break this loop is to redirect your attention outward. Instead of thinking about your own face, focus on the person in front of you. Listen to what they are saying, observe their reactions, or simply pay attention to the flow of the conversation. When your attention moves away from yourself, your brain stops treating you as the center of evaluation. And when that happens, the blushing reaction often begins to fade. So what does all of this mean for you? The next time you accidentally spill your coffee, say something wrong, or receive an unexpected compliment that makes your cheeks heat up and turn red, don't lower your head. Don't avoid people's eyes. And please don't scold yourself for being weak. Remember that blushing is not a white flag of surrender. It is a spotlight honoring your authenticity. It is your body's way of signaling to the world that you have a conscience that works perfectly, that you care about the people around you, and that you are someone others can trust. In a world full of people who are great actors, people who are willing to step on others while keeping a perfectly cold face, a pair of cheeks turning red with embarrassment is something precious. It is proof that you carry the most human part of humanity within you, the part that feels empathy. Don't try to turn yourself into a lifeless stone. Let yourself feel embarrassed. Let your cheeks turn red. The greatest courage is not never feeling fear or shame, but continuing to communicate and live honestly even when your face is bright red. You are not weak. You are simply being a real human being, one who is far more trustworthy than the thousands of people trying to hide their emotions. If you found these psychological insights interesting and want to better understand why you and the people around you behave in such strange ways in life, then the next video on the screen is made just for you. There are still many mysteries about your own brain that you may have never discovered. I'm Apex. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos that help you upgrade yourself every day. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.